Okay, so one of my hyperfixations is communication, and I'm just gonna let this play out and then speak my 2 cents, because... Oh...
Where traditional parenting focuses on a punishment and reward system to teach kids the difference between good and bad, the goal is to use empathy, respect, and understanding to teach children appropriate behavior regulation and emotional discipline. Essentially, it would be like if you threw a tantrum as a child, even if it bordered on the line of disrespectful, instead of your Caribbean parent grabbing all reliable, they take a moment to verbalize what the child might be feeling in the moment and explain to them why that behavior is harmful to them or others. Kind of like,
Daddy sees that you're frustrated, so you threw your toy at your sister, but we don't throw toys at our sisters, okay? It hurts her. Let's think of other things we can do in the future when we're mad so we're not hurting anyone else, okay?
and in theory, it should work.
No, it should not. That is for comprehensive... Oh, this actually pisses me off. Because kids are closer to animals than they are to full-grown adults. So if you're going to speak to them, use the language they understand. Punishment and reward has been relied upon because it's a language that even a kid can understand. You do something that I didn't want you to? Well, either you get a punishment, be it in something being taken away, or a punishment in the sense of a reward for good behavior taken away. And when you finally understand and respect what I'm asking you to do, you get a reward. That kind of shit is easy. It fits within a 2x2 square of options that a child can learn. A child does not have the concepts of the world at their fingertips. And even if they did, I'm pretty sure it might actually be backfiring. Because I was talking with my mom the other day, and she mentioned how when I try to verbally identify what she's going through and or feeling, it doesn't make her feel comforted. It makes her feel small. And if you're making someone feel small in the middle of their tantrum, in the middle of them already not having an ear open to listen, then that's just gonna escalate the situation no matter what you do.
But not for Mushroom Typical 9549. Our 4-year-old daughter is creative, insanely confident, funny, sweet, and can entertain herself, but well, she can also be controlling, demanding, and basically a little Napoleon. This is
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. If you're left feeling small and unrespected as a person, regardless of if you're actually as short as a child or as large as a full-grown adult, some full-grown adults are even as short as children, and that's a whole other rabbit hole I don't want to get into. But regardless, people can sense when they're being talked down to. And most everyone in the history of humanity does not being talked down to. So, are you treating them like an animal that cannot be reasoned with? A person who doesn't understand these things yet, a person who does understand these things and is just being a bitch, or an overgrown child that never got to actually be treated as a person because they were always taught to perform. Out of all of those, out of that entire range, I'm going to say the middle two are much more preferable to either end of things. And I would rather go for, alright, we respect them as a person who doesn't understand what they're doing, and do our best to make sure that they don't grow up living with any regrets that will haunt them for the rest of their life. We can't protect them from everything. We can't protect them from themselves. But we can respectfully identify that they have agency and free will that needs to be tempered so that way they do not take impulsive actions that damage not only the others' self esteem around them, but their own self esteem later on in life. It's not just reacting to the moment, it's short term and long term planning. You want to equip and prepare someone for what they'll have to deal with. Anyways, continuing the
That's what
video.
we did. For her first 2 years, we didn't use the word no, only
Bruh. Okay, I said I would let this video keep going. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
corrected her in the positive. We explain the reason for everything. We never simply say, we are your mom or dad and we say to do this. We almost always give her the freedom to do things alone. Even though it tests our patience, when she did have tantrums, we gave her the space to feel her emotions and only empathized, not tried to correct anything. Fast forward 4 years, our daughter can be so terrible. There have been times where our daughter is at a restaurant on the floor crying. We really don't know what we did wrong. We feel like we followed all the books. The only discipline we have for her is the reflection corner with toys, books, and stuffies.
Okay, so you just taught a child that no matter what I do, I can get away with it. That is the worst thing you could ever do for a person's development. Because then they'll try to do dumb shit. Then they'll throw a tantrum in the middle of a crowd because they think they can get away with it, because they think they're above any kind of rules or consequences. That's not preparing a child for the outside world, that's teaching them how to be a fucking menace that doesn't give a shit about other people's lives. Their world does not include other people. To that kind of person, to that kind of child, it is only their world. And that kind of isolation not only breeds loneliness, resentment, contempt, misunderstandings that fuel the ego, but it also just doesn't allow for communication at all. Someone please make a fucking study on why this is such a bad idea real quick. And then figure out how to dissect the paranoia out of the equation so that way people who are gentle parenting can understand the difference between the traumatic behavior of their parents in their from their childhoods versus genuinely useful tools and strategies. Because a knife is a tool, a screwdriver is a tool. It's the person that chooses to make it a weapon, regardless of if we like that or not. We can keep tools away from people who are extremely liable to turn tools into weapons, and that is a good measure. But we cannot prevent people from having tools, because if they don't have tools, then what the fuck are they supposed to do? Just makes no goddamn sense to me. Hell, that's one of the reasons why I'm so frustrated at myself at how poorly I handled things. Ugh.
Which we use more for a space for her to calm down, but we don't know what we're doing wrong. Now, let us think this through.
Ooh, alright, time to see if you've got the same conclusions as I do, or if there's going to be a conversation space that can be delved into as a discussion, because honestly, I think you've got a pretty good summary of this video and pretty good presentation.
Because according to her, she's doing everything right. Not saying no, giving them the space to express their feelings. But for some reason, they can't understand why their daughter is acting like a menace. Well, it would be easy to blame gentle parenting as a whole, right? You know, the internet's already doing it. But there is something missing from her understanding of what gentle parenting actually is. As a matter of fact, there's something missing from my own definition that I gave to you guys not too long ago. Boundaries! The common misconception about gentle
Yep.
parenting from both users and deniers is that they believe that boundaries don't exist at all within the parenting style. The idea that you can just allow your child to do whatever they want at any time that they please. But I get it though,
That's
right?
dumb.
Like I've seen enough TikToks of kids being gentle parented, and I get why from an outside perspective it looks like their home is a free-for-all. But in reality,
Hell, it's the whole reason why I wanted the person I cared about, to the point it scared me, to be able to hold their ground in a rude manner. Oh, I wish they could have picked up the 2 cents on that, damn it! Because they are liable to run into people who won't take no for an answer. They are liable to run into people who won't take a polite conversation as a boundary. There are people out there who see a civil boundary being put down and go, you're giving me room to do more bullshit. Got it. And they'll just trudge over it. That's why you need to have an emotional force that can be wielded with restraint to actually draw that line in the sand and have them respect it. Because to people who are caught up inside their own heads, to people who don't even view other people around them as having their own lives, you aren't a person to them. You're a resource. And resources exist to be used, whether we like to acknowledge that or not. So the question is, do you let yourself become someone else's resource without boundaries? Or do you state that you have value, that it's exactly because you have value that you should be respected? Because I'm going to bet for number 2 having the better result overall than number 1. God. Now I know what it felt like when my mom tried to raise me and my dad wouldn't sit and enforce the same rules that she did. That helps explain the situation so much, because I basically had an inner child that was acting out, older teenager adult version of myself that was trying to manage the situation and be reasonable and respectful. And then the other person that was involved in the situation was left so far out of the loop that they're like, what the fuck is all of this shit? You must be mad! Which, all things considered, that is a reasonable reaction, let's be real. Oh.
what it's supposed to be the actual definition is that you're supposed to use empathy, respect, understanding, and boundaries to teach kids proper behavior. Oh, kid throwing a tantrum in public? That's cool. But shit behind going home though, immediately, kid makes a mess and gets it on themselves? Great. Not only are you helping me clean this up, but now bath time's a few hours early. You
You don't get to live in a world without consequences. This world is this reality is so specifically designed for that. It's actually amazing that there are people who still don't get the memo. Oh, God, if I was any more entitled, dumb, egotistical, dense, or otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten the memo. Honestly, that kind of mildly terrifies me. I'm glad I got the memo that I can't get away with shit. Kept me from putting myself in a lot of bad situations.
throw a toy in my face? No more toys for the rest of the day. Children still need to know the difference between right and wrong and that actions can have consequences. Not for some arbitrary power dynamic, but how else will they grow up to be functioning adults if they're given complete freedom to react however they want just because they're upset or frustrated? Have y'all ever met an adult man-child?
Yep.
Screaming. Falling to the floor, throwing
No, the customer is not always right. The customer has desires and services that they request. It is up to the service provider to decide whether or not that customer is worthy of respect to provide that service. The customer may be right in terms of taste and choice, not management.
things.
Don't raise your kids to act this way. It's okay to be frustrated, but they need to know there are consequences for behaving in a way that negatively affects other people. They're not the center of the universe. But you know what's crazy? There's actually something I want to prove, and that is that there's a lot of flack that gentle parenting gets that's rather misdirected. Sure, there's gentle parenting, but there's also permissive parenting. Both parenting styles, by definition, are gentle, but only one turns a toddler into Satan's greatest soldier. Permissive parenting is parenting with no structure, boundaries, or rules. They're highly
Avoiding
responsive.
conflict and discipline. The fact that I have learned how to self-govern and self-parent because of the circumstances of my life, and that I'm running into the same problem as millions of my ancestors before me. That being, how do you get this idea through someone else's head when they're so afraid of conflict? How? But because when I was growing up, I didn't want to have any conflict with anyone. I wanted to be everyone's friend. I wanted to get everyone to get along with each other. But at some point along the way, I let go of that. I let go of the fantasy of that idealization and respected the reality that was in front of me. Doesn't matter how much overthinking I do. It doesn't matter how much practicing and being polite and self-restrained and respecting that other people deserve to live their own lives and all that. Doesn't give a shit. There are going to be people who flat out just won't get along with me, and I won't get along with them. And that is normal. If I was still holding on to that fantasy, I wouldn't have ever looked past the reality, because then it means, well, shit, I've got to learn to grow a backbone and actually keep people from doing dumb shit. That sounds annoying and time wasting. Why can't I just let people around me make their dumb mistakes and then move on with my life? And that's what some people do. And it burns them. Because in letting people around you do that, you create an environment where no one is held accountable, no one is actually communicating with each other, and everyone thinks their version of how things works is the right and only version of how things work. Oh, it just sounds like a nightmare. That sounds like a nightmare. And I lost my train of thought on where I was going with this. Like, sure, being more mature than someone else isn't necessarily fun, but it saves you a lot of time and trouble in the long run. Keeps you from getting dragged into conflicts that didn't even need to happen in the first place. Keeps you from being mired down in people's trauma and personal misery because they can't let go of an idea of themselves that they earnestly believe is the only version of themselves that is going to be able to get past all this bullshit, when in reality, that's only a small piece of the puzzle. A single version of yourself is not going to be a solution to everything, even if you want it to be. Even if you want it to be. Anyways, back to the video.
And affection to a child's emotions, but avoid conflict and discipline out of fear for their child not liking them or going into a tantrum.
Don't be shy, okay? There are no rules in this house. I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom. Right, Regina?
Please stop talking. Okay.
Yeah, no, and the reason why that's cringe-inducing rather than friendly is because it shows off the inner insecurity and wears it as if it's something to be proud of, instead of saying, hey, I have worth, this place has worth, and if you're going to disrespect me and that space, then I'm not going to make time or energy for you. I'm not going to allow you access to this. Simply put.
Theory, the good thing about gentle parenting, when done correctly, is that it's not just about setting consequences and rules for the sake of rules, but many times setting the boundaries, setting the consequences and rules before the act even happens. So if they ever break said rule, they're not confused as to why they're going home early or why their Nintendo Switch is in the broom closet all of a sudden. Or sometimes even explaining why the rule they set is important and how it's for their benefit. You know, like,
look, Daddy understands that you don't want to go to bedtime because you were having fun, correct? You were in the middle of playtime. But see, sleep is important. That way you can wake up tomorrow morning and have enough energy to go play some more tomorrow. What part of bedtime would you like Daddy to help you with? Oh, you wish Mommy were here?
so do I, kid. But with permissive
Yep. Firm boundaries are a necessary part to life. If you cannot wield your own boundaries for the sake of your own worth, then you will watch that worth crumble and degrade under pressure. Not because it was weak, but because no one was left to defend it.
parenting, the parent oftentimes cares so much about building a friendship with their kid, being seen like the good guy, that they're scared to enforce even the most basic rules that are literally for their own kid's benefit and safety. If it
Yeah, no. I would rather be the friend you begrudgingly go to for half-assed advice and a reflection on, hey, you're dealing with a real situation. Your feelings are real, the situation you're dealing with is real. It's understandable you're overwhelmed or feeling all these things. At the same time, you can't make rash action either. I'd rather be the dumbass you occasionally go to for wisdom and advice on the off chance I'm actually in the mental state to give useful wisdom, even if it's begrudgingly or like, ugh, fine. I'd rather be that than someone's ultra supportive friend. Because an ultra supportive friend only enables, for both better and for worse. Doesn't build identity, doesn't build ego, doesn't build maturity. Just builds compliance. And it's not the person who becomes compliant. It's you for supporting them. Which then becomes complicit.
kid is throwing a tantrum because they want to go to the store with you, but they don't want to put on their shoes, an authoritarian parent would have threatened the belt. A gentle parent would go, well, if you can't wear your shoes, you can't come to the store with us. A permissive parent? The child would have already been halfway to the store, bare toes to concrete. You can't really blame them though, not entirely at least. My theory is a lot of parents end up becoming permissive on accident, likely because they're so opposed to the authoritarian approach, wanting to leave the abusive approach behind, so desperately wanting to do the gentle approach, yet scared that they're gonna screw up, that they end up going so far to the other side of the spectrum that you actually end up being abusive again by being neglectful to their basic needs. Sure, those kids may grow up feeling very loved and very safe around their parents, but they also grow up to have a lack of self-discipline, poor social skills, very self-involved and self-focused, and overall, very poor decision-making skills and emotional awareness. Something that Passion Choice 3538 unfortunately knows all too well. I think I'm failing my boys trying to gentle parent. I have 3 sons, 6, 6, and 2, and I really started researching gentle/positive parenting and trying to put into practice around the time my twins were 2. However, I feel like by trying to constantly remember everything I've read/learned, I struggle in the moment, and I'm realizing I'm more of a permissive parent right now more than anything. I fall into the trap of letting them do things on their own timeline.
And I've made that same mistake too, in trying to keep track of and remember every little tool and detail all at once. I get overloaded, which then only makes it easier for people to enforce their desires on my space. Because when you're overloaded, you don't want to deal with more shit. You just want to be able to unwind and relax. But if you're the one overloading yourself because you don't trust yourself to be able to handle things and to trust your judgment, then you'll always be overloaded, and that builds a self enforcing pattern. Oh, and this is where generational trauma is a bitch.
And it's backfired. They still both suck their thumbs. They still need help in a bathroom. They still need me to lay with them every night to fall asleep. They need help getting dressed and academically because we never pushed anything. I think they're pretty behind for kids their age. The biggest area I struggle in is discipline. I'm going to be so transparent. I have little to no idea how to do it. For example, when one of my kids pushes the toddler down or takes something from him, I don't know what to say or do because timeouts are viewed as ineffective, and that would be my go-to.
Yeah. A tool you consider ineffective is a tool you consider dead, which is deeply unfortunate. Because sometimes you do actually need that tool, but because you decided, nah, I can't find any reasonable use for it, you've written it off your list of options and you've backed yourself into a tighter corner of, well, I can only do this much because this isn't an option. Watching this video and speaking out loud is actually helping me untangle a lot of the internal confusion I've been sitting with for a while. It's helping remind me, hey, I understand this stuff. I understand it well enough to be able to hold a discussion and to bounce back and forth like this, to reflect off of other people. I may just need to take some time to be here for myself and do this for myself. So that way I can get back up to the level of stability and confidence necessary to enact change in my life. I pushed myself so far in that situation, I broke down. I broke down, and that was my own fault. Ah. Ah. I hate how my hyperfocus has led me to my self-destruction several times. Because it means that I'm never able to say with 100% confidence that, hey, I'm good now. You can rely on me, you can trust me. Healing isn't linear, but by goddamn, is it frustrating. And for those of you who didn't hear it, let me say that again. Healing isn't linear, but by damn, is it frustrating.
Go-to response, I just feel like I do nothing. I give the toddler another toy and don't discipline the culprit. I'm feeling like I'm just in no way doing my job as a parent right now. By doing research for this video, And by research, I mean Reddit. This is unfortunately something that I saw often, of parents trying so hard to do everything right under the framework of gentle parenting. They read all the books, watch all the videos, listen to all the podcasts. They have a general understanding of what they're supposed to be doing, but alas, in the heat of the moment, that's when their default setting comes to light. And they always find themselves on either side of the spectrum. When it actually gets to a point where they need to set consequences, they either default back to yelling, corporal punishment, or being unnecessarily aggressive, or giving into their demands, letting them do whatever they want to avoid another tantrum. And the child now doesn't believe that the behavior is wrong. And furthermore, all they need to do is threaten to act like a fool, and mommy and daddy will let them do what they want. The issue here is, the concept of gentle parenting is much more difficult than probably every other form of parenting out there. Both ends of the extreme just needs you to fall victim to whatever emotion you feel at the time, anger or fear. You try to communicate that you understand their feelings, why their frustrations are valid, but you feel the scene they're causing is airing too close to what's disrespectful. Or you're already so tired and yet another breakdown by your toddler is the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's technically easier just to exert your physical superiority and literally force them to do what you want them to do, thinking,
This is the reason why I'm trying to figure this stuff out and learn from my experiences with other people who are in physical adult bodies, rather than trying to raise a child myself. If I can learn this shit and also help someone else in their adult life get at least a little bit more stability, then I count that as a win-win. Because I'm not traumatizing another kid with my own fucking issues. I'll be messing up as an adult around people I care about, and they'll probably think me a dumbass, but I'd rather that than a kid who's set up for a failure for the rest of their life.
screw it, I'll just do what my parents did to me in this situation and pay for whatever therapy they need in the future. Or you're so tired and annoyed that you
Learning this
figure
lesson
saying
again a
yes to
second
whatever
time
stupid
is a
thing
lot
they want in a
harder.
moment is worth it for a good night's rest. But the problem here, obviously, is how many times are you going to allow that behavior to happen until it becomes a learned habit? And let's say you do slip up. Is it accurate to believe you're going to be confident the next time you find yourself in a similar situation? Or will you freeze and go back to your default? Unfortunately, this isn't an issue that's exclusive to gentle parenting, but a lot of the parenting styles people make the decision to commit themselves to, they find themselves pigeonholed, caring more about whether or not what they're doing fits within the rulebook.
And that's where paranoia is subverting the purpose and strength of will. The only thing to fear is fear itself? No. Fear itself is just curled up in a corner trying to avoid getting hurt. You don't need to fear it. However, you do need to fear its protectors. Paranoia, deflection, pride, doubt. All these different things that try to protect fear and keep it from facing reality ultimately end up causing problems if they're applied in the wrong situation.
Analysis paralysis. You're so
Yep.
afraid of making the wrong choice that you end up making no choice. And you'll keep blaming yourself for doing it wrong. Almost as if you care more about fitting within the rules of a parenting criteria than you do about actually parenting. I think the issue here is obvious.
Ooh.
And it's not entirely the parents' fault, because they want to do right by their child, but struggle with the idea that it's not the end of the world if they don't follow the exact framework that one Reddit comment said, especially when there isn't anything that explicitly states how to appropriately give consequences. But
Paranoia isolates, isolation limits, and it traps people inside their own head, causing them to then feel disconnected from reality, and that can lead to depression as well.
But from what I've seen of the gentle parenting world, it's more conversational than the other styles because, for example, if your child were to hit another child, the consensus of most gentle parents are to immediately separate and remove your child from the area. But explain why what they did was hurtful and not okay. Ask why they did it and talk about how they could handle that situation differently in the future. Framing it not as a punishment, but as a way to protect the other kid because they made them upset, and allowing your child to wrestle with that. Again, this won't work though unless you as a parent come to terms with the fact that you'll never really know the answer when fitting into a parenting style matters more to you than making sure your child is prepared for the consequences of real life. But I get it. Most of
Yeah.
us didn't grow up with a gentle parent, so we don't know what one looks like. Which takes us to Super Cryptographer 72. Can anyone else relate to how insanely hard it is to gentle parent when you were raised in an environment that was the opposite of everything you're trying to do? Nothing like gentle parenting to bring to light that I myself have awful coping mechanisms for my own intense emotions. I was spanked and hit and constantly belittled and yelled at growing up. Kids were seen and not heard. Kids' feelings and thoughts didn't matter. Obedience was key, and my parents beat that into me. I have no issues understanding big emotions and meltdowns that kids have and understanding why they're doing what they're doing, but my patience is so thin when I'm alone and one-on-one trying to navigate hard moments to be the parent my kid deserves. Piggybacking off of story 2, story 3 is the one that ties this all together. For most people who attempt to gentle parent, they're literally going against their own nurture. It's foreign to you as someone who's raised on the literal opposite side of the spectrum. Imagine trying to gentle parent your kid after they do something where if you did the same thing, you would have gotten that 2-piece wombo combo by your mom. As one Reddit comment pointed out, seeing your kid do things that you used to be punished for as a child literally triggers your nervous system and puts you back in that exact same state.
Oh. Well, that adds a lot of context to the situation. Also highlights an area of my mind I'm not familiar with. Noted.
We live in a world where people are trying to do better than their own parents, but struggle because it's so far outside societal norms. So, is the issue really with gentle parenting exclusively, or is the problem trying to fight against tradition and find the best way to do that? And
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit of both mixed with the combination of in a world that constantly preys on your paranoia, your attention span, energy, and interest, so in a world like that where things are oversimplified, there's no space for nuance, which means there's no breathing room for making mistakes, which then causes people to get stressed out and make more mistakes. It's the reason why I pulled away when I did. So I did not want them getting hurt by me blowing up because I failed to take care of myself. I wanted them able to live their own life. Unfortunately, because I was an ambitious dumbass, I still had a negative effect on someone I cared so deeply about. Someone I hope is doing well and making her own mistakes and learning from those mistakes instead of just repeating the pattern out of shame. Because it's okay to not feel okay. You're trying to do a lot at once, aren't you? I set a poor example, damn it.
honestly, I get it. Besides, the baseline difficulty of literally raising another human being, if there's one thing kids have mastered and perfected to a science, it's rage bait.
It's not your birthday, boys. It's Marion's birthday.
This is not spit on me just now?
Yes.
Yeah, kids are good at rage
How did
baiting.
you get this? I'm finna whoop you.
I swear to God, There are some TikToks I found on people's kids where I feared that level of rage bait would have affected me. On top of
Honestly, I'm still trying to figure out my own kind of system where it's like, boop someone on the nose for something that you don't want them doing. If they don't listen, bap them on the top of the head very lightly. If they don't find that a problem, spank them lightly. And if they don't find that a problem, then pull on their ear, because there's no way I have yet to find a masochist that actually likes having their ear pulled. Just please, no. If I ever encounter one like that, I'm going to be terrified.
the fact that it's already embarrassing and awkward for lots of parents to have their toddler throw a tantrum in public, especially in settings where lots of people are watching, all those eyes you perceive as judging you. Maybe you think, they must think I'm a bad parent because I can't get my child under control.
And that's where social paranoia kicks the floor out from under you as well. Because you're so worried about how your image looks that you fail to be present with the actual reality of the situation and respond to it. God damn. Oh. Feels nice to be able to just talk about this stuff and have some of it be, I guess, reinforced as meaningful, as opposed to people telling me you're being too serious. Because it gives me a sense of agency again. Gives me back the options that I thought were worn out and used up. And a sense of agency really matters to a person's mental health. I want to see a world where people have that agency even in the worst of situations. So that way they can at least say, I still belong to me, even if you've baited me into doing this or that. I still belong to me. I'm not yours. I belong to me, and I choose who I belong with. I want to see that kind of world. Even though that will probably have its own issues and its own kind of chaos. Ah.
In those moments, it's easy to revert back to the ancient techniques your mom instilled in your DNA, but that's when the deeper conversation gets started. What work can be done to unpack whatever prior traumas you have in your childhood, so you know why it's easy for you to get so triggered when your kid does something wrong? You don't want to.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I'm going to majorly be covering when I make that video about the past situation and everything. Definitely gonna want to hold that piece of key information to reference it later. Oh. Seeing someone else get away with something that you would have been punished for can trigger your own fight or flight instincts and put you back into the same space as when you were as when you chose that action and got punished for it. Yeah, no, that just explains a lot.
Slip up just because it's easier and less awkward to act fast in the moment than do what you know is right. But that poses another problem though. Is there such a right thing as the right way to parent someone? Isn't it crazy how there's so many rule books on parenting, podcasts, YouTube videos, and yet there's not a single one that can teach you how to raise your kids specifically? The pattern with all three of these stories is emulative as to why gentle parenting is not the answer to toxic parenting either. Because Forcing yourself to stick to one style in every scenario for every child you have isn't the answer to effective parenting. Ironically, diversifying your parenting styles and being flexible to what makes sense in the moment, even specifying it per child, is way better than being gung-ho on finding one right way. Now, that doesn't mean
Thank
throw the
fuck for
entire book at
that.
them and constantly switching styles just because, but
No,
hey,
no.
it's about remembering the big picture, huh? If mom is more prone to nurturing, she could help teach you empathy and emotional intelligence. If dad is more prone to structure, he can teach you responsibility and proper discipline. Because at the
Yeah,
end of
it
the day,
takes a
it's not about
village to raise
whose
a
parenting
child.
style is right or wrong. It's about what type of adult do you want your child to grow up to become? And if that adult is a multifaceted person, wouldn't that require a multifaceted approach? But hey, what do I know? I'm not a parent. But if me telling you that is enough for you to discount this entire video, then
Doesn't matter a single word
mean-
of what either he or I said in that case. You've already made up your mind, and I'm not going to waste my energy on you. Because at that point, you're asking for attention, not creating discussion or conversation. And if you can't handle me calling you out on that, then I would like you to please go live your life and stop bothering me.
I guess, bro.
Watch through this video, got to hear his reactions and everything, and it's just like, yeah, this is the version I'm gonna archive forever in my head. This is what I want. Not being queso, but being grounded. And being able to have fun with it. Being able to go, "Meow," like the weird dumbass I am. And know that I'm still making a positive impact on others' lives. That I'm organizing my community towards events and activities that help give back to the world. Not in the like traditional sense, because let's be real, the traditional sense has been exploited to the nth degree right now by the system. And I only say the system because really, it's not even the system. It's the overgrown children who always learn to fill in their sense of self with that hollow number going up. The ones who perform wealth and status endlessly because, hey, oh, hey, it's easier than actually sitting with discomfort. It's easier than crawling through the muck of everything inside of yourself and holding on to your real value. But I don't want to just hold on to my real value. I want to hold on to the world's real value too. I want to hold on to both. Because the real value of the world is not this massive media machine designed to suck in attention and consume lives like it's nothing. It's not in the bureaucratic level of control that allows ideas and concepts to dictate the lives of the real people that I share a reality with. It's not in the fame. It's not in the power. It's in the people. Because I like people. I'm no good at interacting with them. I'm an absolute dumbass. But yeah, I believe people deserve to live their lives and face the challenges that help them grow without being told that they're shameful. Not in the sense that it enables self-destructive behavior or keeps them from exploring new avenues, but in the sense where each person gets to live as the fullest of themselves, contributing to the whole as a network of chaos that nurtures and supports and understands different people's issues from different perspectives over and over and over and over again until the human civilization consumes every concept that ever existed within our reality and we branch out into the unknown. into things beyond our reality. We start consuming those too. We start, like, creating a network of coherence that allows us all to just live, even when the chaos breaks down what works, even when there's something new that throws a wrench in the understandings of everything, even when reality decides, yeah, that's what was is good, but it's no longer the present moment. We gotta go this way. I want to live. I don't want to just survive. I want to live. And I want to see other people live too. I don't want to be alone. I grew up my entire life being stuck emotionally and psychologically alone. Not because there weren't people around me, but because there wasn't anyone who understood me at all. And it's not just about being understood, it's about finding people who care about you for the same reasons you care about you. It's about finding people who are willing to make the effort to understand you, while also recognizing that your real worth isn't in the things you want, but in who you are as a person and what you naturally give in ways that others just can't. Sure, you could exploit that to the nth degree, turn it into a monetization system that hollows people out even further in the order to stack up a number more and more and more and more, but I don't want that. I don't want a numbers machine. I played through antimatter dimensions until I was like into the time theorems case, and that at that point it was just like the level of patience, insight, timing, and comprehension to stay across all of this just to keep the numbers going up. Not worth it. The numbers aren't worth it. And that's the reason why I'm not successful right now. Because for me, the numbers aren't worth it. It's the people that are worth it. Even if I don't get along with some of them, even if I don't know how to communicate or connect with some of them. I'd rather know that people are out there living their own lives and being themselves in ways that allow them to reflect off of reality instead of staying trapped in false worldviews. So that way they can oscillate between reality and fiction and not feel like fiction is the only place where they can breathe. 'Cause that's what it feels like the world is doing. It feels like the world is trying to compress everyone into the fiction of a false worldview and make us all adhere to the same rules and circumstances as that false worldview. So that way those who are stuck in that false worldview don't feel alone. And though I can understand that kind of hunger, that kind of paranoia and greed and shame and toxic fear and everything, the grief of not having, I want to move beyond it. I want to move beyond the grief of not having. Because the only reason why I'm stuck on the idea of the dense dork is exactly because if they had met any other version of me, they probably would have gotten along with me great, but they didn't meet that version of me. I didn't have the strength to maintain it or to be grounded enough to transition into it through a natural conversation. Either because, well, I was just way too fucking impatient, or they weren't, or the space available to let that happen wasn't available. The space I needed to let that happen wasn't available. There was no room for real conversation. There was no room for grounding because the other person just didn't want that kind of connection. And I could curse, I could scream, cry, make a big deal out of it. But I don't want to. Sure, I may have wanted to once in the past. Sure, I may still feel the impulse of trying to connect over and over again. But that's not who I want to be. That's not how I want to live. I want to live as someone that can let go and let people return people to themselves so that way they have the choice on whether they stick around or not. So that way they aren't addicted to some fiction or some public presentation of me. They actually care about the real me, the messy, incomplete, and flawed me. I thought I had that once. And I think that's really where a lot of the pain still sits, is I thought I had that once. Then I got proven wrong. I'm still learning how to move on. I don't think I'll ever be over it, but I know it eats at me less each day because I'm still here. If it was going to be the end of me, if it was going to kill me through controlling my actions and making me lose my mind, it would have succeeded by now. I would have lost my ability to respect that other people deserve to live their lives. I would have lost all respect for the done stork. I would have not had anything to hold on to in the midst of all my confusion and pain and frustration and emotional agony. But that's not the reality. I did have something to hold on to. The desire to respect that another person deserves to live their life with real friends beside them, with someone who can be honest from the start and not someone who tries to shift their own issues to the side or pretend like everything's okay. Because I wasn't okay. And to keep lying like that to someone I cared so deeply about, I don't know, it just would have broken me in a way I don't think I could ever recover from. I would have become a version of me that earned what I wanted without being honest about how I earned it. If I had just kept my mouth shut. I don't want that version of me. I don't want to be that version of me. Because at that point, I'm not being a real friend. I'm just living up to a presentation that eats away at me and hollows me out yet further. Sometimes I'll forget this entire point of things. Sometimes I'll go tangent off somewhere out of curiosity or excitement. But I want to always be able to come back to here, this center, this idea of me. That can hold my space for my own worth and the world's real worth too. Because in the world's real worth is the worth of every real person. Messy, complicated, confusing, frustrating, and otherwise. I don't want to live alone. I want to live with friends, with found family. That even if we fucking bite at each other or poke each other or make little verbal jabs, we still feel safe. We still feel like we can count on each other in the hard times. I want to make a home like that. I want to make a home like that. And I nearly had it. But if the cost was going to come at even just one person's mental health and one person's suffering alongside my own, then no. I will not take such a fucking cursed paradise. Fuck off. I don't know what I was gonna say here, because I just got finished watching a old recording that resonates with where I'm at, but yeah, no, this knowledge does all exist inside of me, and I do still want to build that community. I've just gotta recognize that I can't build it while keeping silent and keeping everyone out of the loop. Silent delegation is the same as a lack of communication. Oh, yeah, that. And even if I regret my mistakes, I will not hold them above my head like a guillotine, or below my feet like a landmine. They will simply be little shards of perspective and insight that glitter in the mind, absorb, reflect, refract, or focus light. And that's all it needs to be. It's all life needs to be.